Good morning and welcome to A Better World with Julann and Fran. I'm Julann.
And I am Fran, and today we have a very special guest, our beloved friend and my beloved sister-in-law, Mary Rose.
Hi,
Yay!
everybody. Hi. So thrilled to be here with two of my favorite
Thank
people
you.
Oh,
in the whole world, my
oh,
dear, dear friend and my dear, dear sister-in-law.
Thanks for coming on. It's nice of you to do it, to make time for us.
Oh, thank
yes.
you.
And
I always have time for you guys.
oh, and we were talking a little bit before we started recording about some of the things you're doing to make the world a better place. Could you let our listeners know?
Yeah, okay. I was saying before we were recording that it's hard to self-reflect and think how you make the world a better place because I think most people don't think that they do. But I actually have a couple of things that I've thought about over the course of the week since I got your gracious invitation. And I think maybe I'll start with a lighthearted one. Um, Back in right before COVID, probably 2019, I went on a cruise with my son John. And I don't know what happened that cruise, but I won a couple of jackpots in the casino because I'm a casino addict. So thank goodness I can only cruise every so often. Um, and because of that, they gave me this special status and gave me 6 free cruises.
Ooh.
And yeah, so it was 6 fully paid cruises. Beyond that, they gave me $2,500 in casino money. They gave me a shore excursion, whatever. They gave lots of perks. So I took John on the first one, I think, and then I took my sisters and my sister and my nieces on the second one, and then COVID hit. So yeah, there was no cruising for a while. So after that, they erased all that and they gave me 6 more. They didn't
Mm.
count the first two. So I spent, yeah, I had to use it. In fact, we just finished using it. I had to use it over the course of, I guess, when did cruising start up again? Maybe 2022, let's say, by 2025. So I used my 6 cruises and I tried to share it with everybody. Everybody who was willing to come on a cruise, I took them along and I felt like what a great way to pay it forward because I shouldn't have gotten them to begin with. Never mind, got 8 of them. So Julianne, she
Don't
has come
forget.
twice with me.
Yes,
So,
you did.
right, Julianne and our other 2 friends that we Zoom with every week, they came on too. And then Emil came on, oh, many. Emil came on many. And then I took my sister for her 60th birthday and my nieces. So they went on too. And then John's went on a couple too. So I feel like at least everybody got to enjoy. And so that's a lighthearted way of making the world. I think I made the world a better place because sometimes it's just nice to get away and you don't have the money for it. And like, it's free. It's never free. Nothing's ever free, but it was I thought it was a good time and now it's over. And now me and Emil weep about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
So, and
thinking of
over,
it today. I
well,
was
yeah,
thinking of it today. Yeah. I was like,
yeah.
oh, that was so nice because, you have families and you have work and you have so many responsibilities and you never, well, at least I don't take time out. And I wouldn't go on a vacation without my husband and spend a lot of money. But this was perfect because you graciously shared it with us and it wasn't a lot of money. So you got to have a massage and you got to do,
Right,
and
right.
you got to be
We
together, which
Oh my
was,
gosh, to be with our friends, it was like I think we went on the 4 day, right? What, 4 day
yeah,
cruise. Well,
it was so
to be
good.
able to have dinners with you guys and breakfast with you guys and just hang and listen to some music, it was just awesome.
It
Yeah,
was, it
it,
was
it
wonderful.
was.
So a
Because
great
I
thank
will
you.
say, and yeah, well, I just on a side note, everybody knows most of the cruises, the majority of them, Emil can always go. So, and I have to work around payroll, so I'm only limited on the days and weeks that I can go. And like I said, it had to be used by April of 25, which was our last cruise. And when I first started to cruise with him, we would wind up not being friends anymore by the end
Oh,
of it.
Well, tell us
Because
a little bit about him. Tell us
yes,
about
yeah,
him.
okay, I should say that. So, I met Emil not long after I lost my beloved husband, in a bereavement group. Probably the following year, we went to a bereavement group. And it's funny. A funny thing is that they had to put me off. no, they had to move me up one bereavement group because a spot opened up, and they had to put him off one bereavement group because there was no room for him. So it's at the church. It's at St. Ambrose in Old Bridge, and it was run by a wonderful woman, and it was a great, great group of people. So he had lost his wife. It's now 10 years ago, and I lost John coming up on 8 years ago, and it was which is what my serious thing that I'm going to talk about. It was just such a wonderful, wonderful experience for the both of us and for the people that we met that we are still very, very close to. And so now it's 7 years ago that we did bereavement. Anyway, I don't want to tell that story now. So he lost his wife 10 years ago. He took care of, well, not just took care of her, but she was type 1 diabetic from the time she was 18. When she blew
Hang on a
and he
minute,
could
Mary.
see,
We're losing you, so we didn't
Oh,
hear any of that.
okay, how
She
much?
she was what?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. She was type 1 diabetic from birth. So, and went blind at 18.
Mm.
So they met in blind school because he wasn't blind at the time, but his vision was always terrible because he has Marfan syndrome. So he's got a mechanical aorta that he got at 26, where he wasn't expected to make it even then. But anyway, she died when she was 49, left behind Emil and a 15-year-old son. And 2 years later, he went blind. So he lost his vision completely. His son at that point was 17. So, still a minor, still in high school. He lost his vision. He lost his job. He lost all of his benefits. He was raising a minor son, and his vision, and his wife. So life was pretty miserable. So, when I entered the picture and we become friends, that was 2018, I guess. I said to him, because we all became close over I think bereavement was maybe 9 weeks, and we all just really gelled, all of us. So I said to him at the end of the bereavement group, I was like, listen, because all he said was, all I do is sit in my recliner. And at that point, we were in our late 50s. He was like, I don't have, I don't have anybody. I don't, my mother-in-law will take me places. And he's like, but, I can't drive. I can't go outside. I can't walk. And, he said this over the course of the weeks. So I said to him on the way out, I was like, listen, I do a lot of fun things. I'm very blessed that way. I have great people in my life, and, I'm just not one to sit around. Um, anytime, anytime that you want to do anything, I'm willing to take you. Well, little did I know what that meant. Because if you don't know how to navigate a blind 6'5" man,
giant,
you haven't
right?
lived. Yes,
And he's a
very
great
tall,
guy.
very tall.
We have to say
He
that
is a
he's not
wonderful man. He's
cranky.
wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful. No,
he's a
yeah,
pleasure to be with. It's not like he's cranky, and he's just a really, really nice guy.
yeah.
We
And
love
let me tell you something. He makes the world a better place because I know now that I know him so well just how difficult his life is.
him.
But you wouldn't know it. Unless you really dig in and talk to him, he would never say anything like that. He turns a very positive face to the world, even though he has dark moments, because don't we all?
Right.
Yeah, and he can laugh. He can put people at ease with his blindness, because that's another thing that I found out over the course of these last 7 years. You have people who don't think a thing about his blindness. You have people who won't even look in his direction because he's blind. And then you have people who say all of the wrong things. Just like a microcosm of the world, right? So, when he puts people at ease with being blind, everybody will talk to him and approach him. He puts everybody at ease, even kids. Like my granddaughters, they have no clue that he's blind, what that means, In fact, just recently, Taryn was teaching them, do you, your name is Maddie Elliott, and you're Jenna Elliott, and I'm Taryn Elliott, blah, we're on and on. And so they said, Grandma Elliott? And they're like, oh, yeah, you do have a Grandma Elliott, but you're thinking about Grandma O'Brien. And they said, oh, and Emil Elliott? And she was like, no, not even close. He's got names 3 away from ours. So
Right.
I thought it was funny. So, but a lot of times little kids will, it's just funny, right?
Yeah.
Little kid, and then he hears that and that he's thrilled by things like that. They're like, wait, they think I'm Abel Elliott. Abel Elliott is very just adorable. But um, we went on a vacation, family vacation, disastrous family vacation. But my little nephews were there, and they were old enough to be afraid. And so me and Emil took his cane, and we opened up the cane and showed the cane how he walks with the cane, and that's how he navigates the world, and that chilled them right out. First, like, they loved the cane, so they were walking all over with the cane, and that the ice thawed, and then they were best friends with Emil. So there are ways that he has definitely taught me how to. I didn't think anything of him being blind, to be honest, but I see. And he said he knows from his being with his wife all those years how people you know react in those 3 different ways. So anyway, back to the cruise. So I hit him on everything. Hit him. I hit his head because you know what? I find out we're spatially aware of ourselves. So I'm 5'3", he's 6'5". He walks behind me. I
Yeah.
hit him on every doorway.
Aw.
Send him flying. So
Not,
just
no, you don't. You're
I
used to it now, but
now, but it
listen,
took
that's a
that's
lot. You don't
I took a,
realize.
but I had seeing eye dog training. His mobility coach took me out and trained me how to act like a dog.
Nice.
and, and we had a lot of laughs and it was a lot of fun and I learned a lot of things. Not to say I'm perfect because I'm not, because again, you're going to fit under that doorway. You're not thinking, and
You
that's
don't think about it,
right.
right?
You don't
Yeah.
think that this next person is not going to clear. You actually have to be in the moment, and that's not my strong suit. I'm always one step ahead. So I learned how to navigate much better. Again, not perfectly, but one just this last cruise, he was like, when we got back to the cabin, he was like, "Is my knee bleeding?" And sure enough, blood was pouring down his leg, and he was like, "Yeah, you banged my knee on the door jam." Like, oh, I'm
Aw.
sorry.
God.
So yeah, but just overall. But so that's what happened at the beginning of the cruises. We would, because he would say, you know, if you cared for me, you would know not to hit me on the door jam or whatever, and I was like, it has nothing to do with that. And so, but he would get upset, then I would get upset, and then we wouldn't speak, and then we'd come home and we wouldn't speak for, a week or 2 weeks. And so by this last cruise, we spent 46 hours in two airports and on 5 flights and didn't have a sour word for each other. So
Nice. See?
so yes, I think in my own little way, I have, but that's just one person. But I have certainly opened up the world to him because we, do a lot of things together. He gets out of the house, and the idea of such a gregarious guy with not great circumstances, was just sitting in his house in his lounge chair, his recliner, whatever you want to call it, was that was a lot to take. So
Yeah, that's
I'm glad that
heartbreaking.
at least I can contribute. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think for both of us, life is improved because it's nice to have somebody to do things with. Like I said, I have wonderful people in my life, wonderful children, my grandchildren, but everybody has their own life.
Right.
So, I'm not constantly on everybody's mind saying, well, what is the widow doing? Is she alone this weekend or whatever? But, a widower is in the same boat.
Right.
So, we'd go out to eat or, we had the camper, we go on cruises and we have a good time. Now we have compromised over he doesn't like TV because obviously he can't see it, but now we're, what do you call that? Binge watching, Sons of Anarchy. So not
Oh,
something I wanted to do, but I love TV and something that
yeah.
he said that he could handle, and we both love it. So,
Nice.
you compromise, and yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
So yeah, so he's I kudos to him. I told him I'm not going to let him watch this because I was going to talk about him, and I don't know if it's all everything I'm going to say is kind. I don't mean it not to be kind, but you hear your sad story. In fact, going into bereavement, which I can get back to now, how I think we both of us make the world a better place a bit. Um, I thought I'm going to win the contest, the bereavement contest, because that's what everybody wants. You have the worst story. So I lost my
Oh,
mother in May 22nd. Then I lost my Aunt Shorty on October 17th, and then the love of my life 5 days later. So I said, who loses? Because, Aunt Shorty was like my mother. Who loses two mothers and a husband in a 6-month period? You know, my best friend in the whole world, Shorty, and John within 5 days of each other. I don't even know how I was going to survive something like that. So I'm like, I got this. I'm going to get the bereavement trophy. Crazy. And then Emil told his story. So we were
yeah.
destined to be friends. And I was like, oh no, you win hands down. That's much
Right.
worse than me. So we laugh about that all the time. And actually, there was one other worse story in between me and him, but I digress. Um, so we found bereavement to be like so tremendously helpful. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, do not. And so I always encourage anybody who loses anybody. It doesn't have to be a spouse. To try to continue to find a bereavement group that works for you, because sometimes you get into a bereavement group that is like, let's say you lost a spouse, and a lot of people in the group have
Lost
lost
it.
like children.
Yeah.
Yeah, lost adult children, or they lost a parent, and um, it's not, lost is lost. I'm
Same.
not saying that,
Right.
but I think I think what helped the most. So we had a mixed group of people. We had people, two adult children lost, and somebody lost, a couple lost a son-in-law, but we had four widow and widowers, and so being in the space with these total strangers who you realize is in the same exact position as you was as comforting. I can't even, I don't even know why necessarily, but to hear that you are not
Alone.
reacting in an odd way, but even so, because you start to think to yourself, you can't keep burdening the people in your life. People are, of course, willing to listen, but even you yourself know that after a while you sound like a broken record. And, you don't want to, you want to be able to talk to the people in your life when you really, really need to. But in between those times, you still need to get a lot of stuff out.
Right.
And so he was in, Emil, just because I'll use him because he was part of the group. He was in therapy. I was also in therapy. At that point, both of us had been in therapy. I went into therapy when John was first diagnosed. And I don't think he went until he lost his vision. But, that, of course, is tremendously helpful. And that, I recommend therapy. I don't care if you think you're the most normal person in the planet. You need therapy. Everybody needs therapy.
Right. You need
Uh,
some things you need to talk about.
Absolutely. And you know what? My therapist, God bless her, she, started to have a family, so she went out of business. Not out of business, but she's on a hiatus.
She's got her
Um,
own problems now.
yeah, that's right. She told me, and this is another thing I pass along, and you don't have to be a widow or a widower or have even lost somebody yet in your life. When I went to her, I wasn't necessarily looking for advice. What I really need was to cry and scream and just let it out. And she sensed that. And so a lot of times she never even said a word during our 45 minutes. I just would cry and, just wonderful. But I guess after a couple of weeks of that, because I went twice a week in the beginning, she said, I'm gonna, give you a piece of advice, and I'd love to pass this along to the audience. Please take this piece of advice, file it away in your brain for when you need it, because we all will lose people. She said, you have a limited amount of time here. It's obvious because I had told her the whole story, and he had stage 4, so it was only going to be X amount of time, hopefully very long, but you never know. She said, the way you are acting right now, you're mourning him twice. She said, do not mourn him twice. She said, if you squander this time that you have now left with your darling husband, It's not going to change you morning after. We will all grieve after we lose somebody. She said, so if you don't live in the moment now, you will regret it the rest of your life.
Hmm.
Well, and I took that advice. Now listen, it's not that you're not really upset inside, that you're not grieving and mourning on some level, but I took that advice, which I'm not really very good at taking advice. You can, Emil, I tell him all the time, I'll take it under advisement. But I realized that's what I was doing. I wasn't living the ever amount of time we had left. I wasn't living it right. So I had my moments, and that was usually a therapy. I would go in and cry and cry and cry. But we took those, at that point, it was probably like 2 years that he had left. That, of course, we didn't know. And we frigging lived. We lived. I left my job. I retired. Anything that John was able to do, that he wanted to do, if he was up to doing, we did it. We went on vacation. We went to concerts. We just did something simple like, went to the park. And I can look back on that time now and say I could have very easily rolled up in bed and tried to, just deny everything that was going on. And what a trooper, my husband, John, is Fran's brother. Um, you know, he really wouldn't let on, how bad things were, and so I would say, you feel like doing something? Always said yes. We went to the Dominican Republic. I'm like, you really want to go? Oh, yes. He went to Key West. We did bucket list items. How about that? We did bucket list items for him. And it was just, the condition that I was in when I was in therapy, screaming, crying, I can't thank her enough for that. So I really, because of all that, so remember everybody, don't mourn somebody twice. Try to live in the moment because the grieving is overwhelming and horrible, and will last a while after. Live with the person in every way that you can while they're ill. Another thing that we have here. So this is how we try to pay it forward. Um, Whenever we see, and I'll say me because I have to transfer people over to Emil. Emil lost his wife quite suddenly at 49.
Hmm.
Her kidneys and her heart started to shut down. They put her temporarily on life support. I think she was, it was like 2 days, and she passed away. Where John was sick for 30 months. So, we have spirited debates all the time about what's
Which is worse.
worse. Right. I was going to say which is better, but you're right. Which is
Right.
worse?
Right.
And, there's no answer to that. Um, because John left this earth without there was not a thing left unsaid. I have complete closure. I mean, it's horrible. I miss him. I long for him 8 years later. It's like I saw him yesterday. Um, but Emil has no closure. So he's always saying things like, I hope that she knew how much I loved her and admired her. Now that I'm blind, I can't imagine how she raised her child blind. I did not compliment her enough. I didn't. And I was like, you know what? You can't do that to yourself, because she knew. She knew. That's what happened. She knows. And what are you going to do if she didn't? She did. So it's great that I had John for 30 months and we can do all of those things and stuff. But you watch the person that you love
Fade away.
just deteriorate over time. It's just, that is just awful. So, you know, think about it for a sec. Well, what do you think? I mean, I really, really appreciate that time that we had. Um, and I know that he tried to stay alive as long as he could for me and the kids. And, there's some guilt connected to that. But um, yeah, so that's really how we became such good friends, because we would debate that all the time. And we came up with the following: they both suck.
Yeah, absolutely right.
They
They
both
both
suck. So
suck.
yeah, there are no winners there. So anyway, after our experience with bereavement, we do meet with with our bereavement group still, 2 or 3 times a year, and have dinner, and it's wonderful to see in 7 years, like, the different places that people are at and how far we've all come. So we'd like to spread the word that, um, you, it's it does get better. Um, you learn to like live with the loss. I mean, this is all stuff that, obviously this is not new revelations. But when you are newly widowed or widower, or God forbid you lost a child, I can't, thank God, I can't give anybody advice for anything like that. And we're all on earth, we will all suffer loss. Um, but when I hear or see of somebody who just lost a spouse, I'm all over them because I see that bewildered look, and I know that they probably do not want to, like I didn't want to burden people in their life, and I am, maybe somewhat familiar with you, but maybe not even. Maybe we barely know each other. You can call me. I give my phone number. Call me morning, noon, night, middle of the night. Don't have to know my name even. Just call. You need to hear another human voice. You need to cry. You need to get things off your chest. Or maybe you need some advice. Or maybe you need to see that there is healing. Because when you are in it in the early days, you don't think you're going to make it. And I'm telling you, I think some people maybe consider not sticking around. I know Emil said with all of his things, he's deeply religious. He said, if it was not for my God and my son, he's like, I have no reason to be here. He's like, but I would never even consider something like that. But that's him. There are
Right.
people I don't think who can see, if they don't have like children dependent on them and stuff, I mean, who hasn't thought maybe I'd rather be where my person is, like in the darkest moments. So I've had mostly women. Men are kind of shy about it. But if somebody will tell me that somebody's person just like dropped dead, for lack of a better term, I give them Emil's number because I think that he can,
He's better. Yeah.
more relate. Yes, more relate. And he's the type of person 24/7. And I don't have to tell them that he can't see, so they don't have to feel awkward or anything like that. It's a phone call. And I think that um over the 7 years, I think that I have been able to spot the widow or widower. Why can't I say that word?
It's
Um, that needs my phone number because not everybody does.
right.
Some people, unfortunately, maybe aren't all that crazy about their spouse. But it's for the people who
Are
have
heartbroken.
that profound loss. Yes, yes, and you can see it. You can just see it from a mile away, and don't know how to. And actually, I can give some even practical advice to new widows. Um, how to navigate. Like o- not I don't give financial advice. I don't do that. But you have to change maybe your social security, or you have to, you know, so one woman had she lived in like I don't want to say rent control, but senior type apartments that we have here in New Jersey. And her rent was actually able to be cut in half because she lost her husband.
Oh,
Because it's based on the number of people in the apartment. And that made the difference between, maybe, going to a movie once a month, to
right.
cut that because suddenly there's that financial aspect. Like John, 100% was our breadwinner, 100%. So that's what I mean about the bewilderment. You know, you, you lost your person. You lost your person, and then there's financial consequences from there too. And practical, can I stay in the house? If I have to move from the house, how the heck am I going to get out of this house? How am I going to pay? How am I going to pack up this house? And so I do try to help people. And then also, I work for the township of East Brunswick, and we have a senior center there. And I have a good friend over in there. Of course, she's there to help the people of East Brunswick. That's her job, and that's what she gets paid to do. But I can ask her a question after hours as a friend if somebody has a question, and she will help. She will give me the answers to help them navigate. Like a lot of them don't even know, like, what do they do with Social Security? A lot of people don't know that when you lose your spouse, you lose one of the Social Securities, so your income is immediately halved. And that's sometimes quite a shock for people, especially when you lose people suddenly, because you may not have had that opportunity to be able to speak, finances with people. Did somebody leave you a pension? Did somebody, if that's the case, what is it that you have to do? And that's very overwhelming when you're in the depths of
When you're
grief.
heartbroken. Yeah.
Yes, when you just don't even want to get out of bed, but your rent is due. So you have to figure out how to get it. So just, always an ear. That's how I think that if I add anything to the world, which I don't think that I do, um,
You
You
do.
do.
no, people need an ear.
You do.
People need to be listened to and heard. Even if they don't want your advice, you can kind of pick up on that if you start to try to give somebody advice. That's not what they want. They just want to, like, verbal vomit. I'm fine with that. Like, cry with people because it brings up all your own things. And
Yeah.
I hope that I help in my own little way. I hope that helps people when they're going through what is possibly the worst time of their lives. That's it. That's all I
Yeah.
do. I don't
You
have
do.
any other good things except maybe a
Well, thank
fun
you for sharing.
cruise or
Thank you.
Yep,
what
you're
happened.
freezing. You
I'm
But
froze a little
freezing?
bit. But you do absolutely, oh, my internet connection is unstable. Okay. But you absolutely do help the world by doing that, by being there for people who need you.
Well, I think that also, the way I was saying about Emil being blind, that some people are afraid to approach. People don't really like to look at grief. It either brings up a lot of their own things, or my let me not mention names, but it's somebody in the family. Um, After she had, well, all right, I'm just gonna say it. So we have in my on the Mape side, Fran, not the O'Brien side, because we know we have grief like nobody's business. Um, but on my side, we have Paula, my sister, who lost her husband when she was 46. I lost John when I was 56. Emil lost his wife when he was 54. And then my brother passed away, it's 5 years ago already, and left his wife. And so she was at that point, I guess, 55-ish. Um, so the way my sister Paula helped me, um, I know that she's also a very good resource. So we're like, let us help you, Dee. Um, you have who has in their immediate family?
2 people.
Three, three, right?
Yeah.
Paula, me, and Emil,
Yeah.
in their 50s, in the same exact situation as you. My brother died over a protracted period of time. So I'm the one that I think that I could be the most help to her. But she said, I don't want to be in your club.
Hmm.
Like, oh, nobody wants to be in our club.
Yes.
We get it. We get it. That's not offensive or anything like
Oh,
that. If anybody had a choice, they would not be in our club. But please keep us, because you have a tremendous amount of resources right in front of you. But that's it. I mean, you can't help everybody because not everybody wants your help.
you know,
It took
right.
her a full 5 years on her own to get better. She's just finally now turned a corner, but she did it completely alone. She would say that she didn't want to upset me and
Burden
Paula
you.
because it's our brother, right? But Emil, so I know that was just her own headspace that she was in. Um, I can tell you, if you have a widow or a widow, if you're going through that situation again, I can't, give any kind of advice to other kind of loss. But even if it's a parent, I can certainly relate to that. Um,
Right.
if there are people in your life that you can, they will understand and they will help you. It's not a club. Well, maybe it is a club. It's not a club anybody wants to be in. So you can say that and you can, just let loose. I mean, my brother wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So you can
Right.
say things about my brother that whatever you need to say to get off your chest. But if you don't want to, that's cool too, because everybody's in their own space. So you can't. It's not that you can't help everybody. It's that not everybody is really looking for your particular help. So once you get that, and you realize that you tried, and they know that you're there, even if it's 5 years from now. You know, my phone can ring at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's her and she's crying and I'm there. So that's the, advice I could give. And because I'll leave you with this thought. My Aunt Shorty, God rest her soul, would talk to everybody in the world. If you were online in, Key Food in Brooklyn, she'd say, "What are you going to do with that chopped meat?" I'm out of recipes and get people talking to me. She really, and she, like when you're a kid, you're like, "Oh, don't do that." Why are you
Ah,
talking to strangers?
that's great.
Like you're too cool for that, right? But she said to me, and I try to carry this through my life. Everybody needs a friend.
That's right. That's
And if you throw it out there, she said 95% of the time, not only will you get a conversation back, sometimes you wind up with a new friend. She said, because most people don't have the ability to just speak to strangers. And we know that that's true. Most people just, stay in their lane. And my Aunt Shorty had so many friends, and some of them were met in Key Food. Quite a few, I have to say, were met in Key Food. And I think that, she was just a very kind person. I mean, I know in this day and age, things aren't as simple. Maybe if you said to somebody, "What are you going to do with that chopped meat?" They think you're going to steal it because it's
Yeah,
so
we've
expensive.
had this conversation. You have probably haven't heard them, but it's so weird how things are. There are no coincidence, okay? So this week, the thing that I'm most thinking about is how there are so many people that we come in contact with that could use a friend or a help or a word or some kindness. So I happened to mention this to my son when we were together the other night, how we don't realize how we can touch a person just by a smile or an act of kindness. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So he goes, Mom, I can't believe you said that. Look at Danny, my nephew Danny's Instagram. I have all kinds of stuff, Facebook, Instagram. I really don't do it. I'm working on being in the present. I don't take a lot of pictures of my grandkids because I want to be on the floor playing with them. I want to be more present, right? So the same thing with seeing someone. I saw somebody the other day with a suitcase, and because I had so much to carry and I was rushing, as I got on the elevator, I said, why didn't I say, oh, hope you're going somewhere fun? Something, maybe she wasn't. Maybe she had to leave because of some terrible thing. But anyway, even today on my way out of church, there was a woman, an older woman in front of me. And I said, oh, I love your sneakers. Now we talked for the whole way that we walked, and you could see
Uh-huh.
like she lit up. But anyway, back to my nephew. My nephew's wife has cancer.
Hmm.
Mhm.
She's in her early 30s, yeah. So he had put up something on his Instagram, and I won't do it justice really, but pretty much there are two men at sporting events, and you see them through the season, different clothes, different. One guy is gregarious, he's excited. Hey man, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And there's a guy sitting next to him who's very quiet. He just looks sad. He's just,
Mm.
he's not sharing anything, blah, blah, blah. So you see them through, and it's the same thing through the whole story. And then at the end, you see the man sit down alone, and it's the quiet man, and the other man killed himself. That's the thing that you get,
Oh,
because you
Wow.
never know who is,
right,
like we talked about that, what you said. You don't know that the lady in Key Food is not cranky because she lost someone or because
right.
tragedy. So if we could just have grace, that's making the world a better place, and
That's
you
true.
do, Mary
That's
Rose.
true.
I'm
Yes,
proud.
that's true. And that, a lot of times, and you have to have the ability, I think, to not uh have your feelings hurt. That's not personal. If that person doesn't answer you about
It's
the chopped
okay.
meat, it's fine. It's no big deal. But a lot of
Yeah,
people can't do that either because you feel vulnerable to put yourself out there. But I'm the first one to acknowledge I am not for everyone.
none of us are.
I'm loud. I have my thick Brooklyn accent and stuff. So that may be off-putting to people. Well, if you know what, it's your loss.
Right,
That's
exactly right.
okay. If yeah, yeah, it's okay.
Do you guys remember?
I know what my son and
Sorry, go ahead, Mary Rose.
go. No, no, no,
Do
go.
you do you remember that story? I remember when I was younger that there's a kid and he's getting off the school bus and he's got a pile of books. And as he gets off the school bus, the books fall all over. And the quarterback of the team or whatever, the high school team, he or the eighth grade team, whatever, he helps this kid pick up his books, and they start talking and they become friends and blah, 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 and go ahead to high school graduation. The young boy with the books is the valedictorian. And in his speech, he explains that that day he was going home to kill himself. And he had all his books with him
Oh,
because he
wow.
didn't want his mother to have to clean out his locker.
Wow.
Oh,
He said that in front of the whole, that this boy
Wow.
saved his life. Now, again, you know, I went to get my hair done the other day, and I talk to everybody. Everybody knows that, you know, totally. But the girl doing my hair said, "Oh my God, Jewel, when I got a letter in the mail from a husband and father. He just wanted me to know that when I talked to him in high school, how much it meant to him. And he's a father with children now, that he wanted her to know what a profound effect she had on him."
Wow.
And she said, "Honest to God, I didn't really do anything." So these are
Wow.
the things that make the world a better place. It's those tiny little things. It's noticing. It's, you know, the big things like what you're doing, and tiny little things like,
Absolutely. And what a great thing you guys are doing. It's what an uplifting podcast in a
right?
time where things are kind of, I don't know,
Crap.
crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice to, I have to tell you, because I began this whole thing saying I was kind of stressed because I don't think I had. I actually feel so good about myself at this moment.
You should. I could
Thank you.
cry. I'm
Thank
so
you for
proud
that.
of you. We're proud of you. We are. We're
I do,
proud to
because we
know you.
never take a moment to really reflect and think that you do anything at all. And it's just a little thing that I do. But it's nice to think you do something other than just work, and clean the house and empty boxes and,
Exactly. And
yeah,
cook
and
and do
it's,
this.
not only that, for each person that you touch by saying hello or asking a question, acknowledging their sneakers, whatever it may be, that person is then in a better mood and they're going to go and interact with other people and do other things. And so you're making the world a better place just by that one
Right.
little thing. And that's only one thing that you do. You also raised wonderful children and you make people laugh and you do a bunch of wonderful things. So
I have some good jokes too.
thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to spare you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I liked your jokes from the others
Yeah.
from
I didn't
Thursday. They
tell
were
those
funny.
jokes to friends. I don't think I told them. But anyway,
I'll
that's
tell you
the
what,
hobby.
the best thing that makes the world a better place is having wonderful people in your life. And if you have even one wonderful person in your life, you're blessed beyond measure.
That's
The
right.
fact that I have so many, I couldn't be more blessed. And I thank God all the time for my O'Brien family, for my besties in the whole world, for my family. And that helps you, that I think that helps you pay things forward, because you have to recognize how lucky you are, because not everybody has anybody. So God bless us all.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a nice way to end it, Mary Rose. God bless us, one and all.
Yes.
There you go. All right, so this has been another episode of A Better World with Julann and Fran and our guest, Mary Rose. Yay! And
Thanks.
everybody,
Bye.
please like and share this video, and we'll see you again on the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.